Hey,
Hey, Garth.
we're in the same
It
room.
was crazy. Actually, this is a really weird. I'm used to being somewhere else talking to you, so I don't know if I talked to you or here we are. For listeners who are listening, we're recording this together
Yeah.
for only the third time in the history of our Lassoing leadership run. So
Yeah, we're not sure when this episode's coming out, but I'm in Calgary,
yeah,
visiting
June.
the Rundle Empire
Yeah,
out
right.
here.
Yeah, we're doing the grand tour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the real estate you have here. Anyway, so it's great. We have a great guest coming on the show, and he's been on the show before. Jason, how many careers do you think your students will have? How many different jobs do you think students will have?
Like I know now what Ashish believes about this, but I would say probably 3 careers, probably 15 jobs.
Yeah, and he will tell you that's not true.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think about it.
Accelerated through the technology trends of today, generative AI certainly being one of them, but also that the traditional pathway dependency of jobs, which maybe you and I grew up with. Like I knew how to become a teacher, an educator, and those are being slowly eroded. And it's all about skills and mindsets, acquiring skills and mindsets, and then almost proving that to people. So that's part of the conversation. It's amazing because Modern Achievement by Asheesh Advani, that's who we have on today. It talks about the difference. We talk about the difference of what achievement means and how to get there.
And he talks about like metacognition. He talks about positive self-talk. Like this is an incredible podcast with so many important reminders for school leaders, for the youth, for parents. I think people are going to love this show, Garth. It's really, really fun. I'm glad we did this one.
All right. Enjoy
the show.
Lassoing leadership, sharp and true. Beard's Book Club got wisdom for you. Turn the pages, let the stories flow. Unpacking lessons as we grow.
Welcome back to Lassoing Leadership. I'm Jason Rogers, and I'm joined today in person by my co-host, Garth Nichols. For those of you who can't see us, we're together today in Calgary and recording this in the same studio. It's only third time ever.
Buddy. Yeah. Excited to be here. Hey, everyone. Today we are equally as excited to have Asheesh Advani back with us. Asheesh is the CEO of Junior Achievement Worldwide, co-author of the book Modern Achievement. And it's a book that really is reshaping how we think about success in today's ever-changing world, but also it does a great job of saying this is what it used to be, and this is how you used to get success.
Yeah.
But now this is what success actually is, in his opinion, and this is how we can drive towards that success. So,
and
it's great to have him back.
Absolutely, Asheesh is no stranger to the podcast. If you've been listening along with us, you would have heard him back in season 1, where we discussed his book, and it had just come out. And Garth and I have returned to this book several times. We've remained inspired by that work. So it's amazing to have you back. Congratulations, Asheesh, on all that you've accomplished with the book. And since then, we've been following JA Worldwide closely, and we're just really inspired by what's going on over there. Let's throw to you right away. I mean, are there any updates on the JA Worldwide that you want to share, or anything on the book? Tell us a little bit more about your journey over the last little while.
Well, first of all, it's really great to be back. I love what you guys are doing, putting a magnifying glass on leadership, using, frankly, the amazing metaphor of Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
So it's fun to be back. Progress with JA, since we last spoke, we continue to grow around the world. We launched in many new locations, particularly in Africa, including Rwanda. So I have this great job, which allows me to travel the world and meet the most achievement-oriented young people who are, leaning into planning their careers and hungry to learn. So I've had a chance to travel quite a bit since our last time together, and the book has also launched around the world in different places. So I've had a chance to also see the receptivity of the ideas in the book in different countries.
And now she's going around the world and meeting youth who are interested in these ideas. What would you say is like the universal common theme when you think about, the youth that you're meeting with in these contexts?
Well, I think one universal theme is that young people, while they're very optimistic about the future, far more optimistic, I think, than their parents.
Cool.
I think there is a sense of questioning how AI will impact their life.
Yes.
And just like I think for adults and people who are, let's say, young at heart, the you can categorize people into those who are looking at opportunity and those who are looking at the threat and looking at the change as a negative. And of course, nobody really knows the answer. The truth is, nobody really knows the answer. But I think the mindset that people take for how they approach it, I think for young people, I see the same diversity of mindset that I see amongst older populations.
Cool. Yeah, generative AI in terms of the world that we're moving into is maybe something that wasn't on the sort of on the radar as you were writing your book. So that's interesting that it's now coming up and you're seeing this more worldwide. But let's talk about the book a little bit more. What inspired you to write this book, and how is it maybe a little different than what a reader might expect?
Yeah, so actually AI was very much on my mind when I was writing the book. Partly because when you look at the sources of what's changing the definition of success and achievement, all these technological trends, where AI is certainly the one which right now has so much impact on the way we think and plan for the future. But all these technological trends are increasing the number of jobs and careers that young people are going to have. So on average, a young person is going to have 7 different careers and 20 different jobs over the course of their life. And with that much change, the way we define success and achievement also needs to change. Traditional achievement books are written where there's a long-term goal you write down and you visualize the goal and the universe helps it come true. And particularly for a young person, it means that the first college you get into, the first job you get, has some path dependency towards achieving your goal. But if you're going to have 7 jobs, 7 careers and 20 jobs, you are going to have a lot of change in your life. And that school you get into or that first job you get just isn't as critical to the path that you're on. So I think, in my view, AI and technology have a lot to do with that level of change, because you may start life as an engineer, but you may end up being a nonprofit leader like me. I mean, that is entirely possible. Many of my colleagues started their careers in engineering and now are senior executives and managers in my organization.
And you've had a fascinating career, and you talk a lot about that in your book. Tell us a little bit more about this concept of path dependency and how that's changing for young kids today.
Well, let me put it this way. My father started a first job at IBM after he finished university, which in those days was, well, I mean, it still is an incredible company, but in those days it was like the company. To get a job at IBM was like getting a job at Google, Tesla, and whatever hot startup you want to name combined.
Yep.
Right? So my father got that job, and that meant his whole career after that allowed him to, if he wanted to, take other amazing opportunities. In his case, he decided to stay at IBM, moving from India to Canada, then from Canada to the US after I went off to university. So that's his life. My life, to answer your question, is I had to get a job in strategy consulting after going to a good university. If I hadn't done that, I think a lot of opportunities wouldn't have been open to me, because that was the next hurdle I had to jump to be able to showcase and learn skills to the world that I was sort of still on the path. Today, that is just no longer true. Today, you don't have to get that amazing job at that investment bank or strategy consulting firm for that to make your career. You could do anything that builds skills and gives you a mindset that allows you to be resilient through change, but also be opportunistic through change. To say, geez, this new technology is going to change things, but I'm going to use my skills and my approach to success to leverage these opportunities as opposed to be fearful of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I think it makes perfect sense. And it allows us to dig into some of the concepts that you raise in your book, Modern Leadership. And I think, or Modern Achievement, my apologies. I think the idea of fixed, flexible, and freestyle style framework. Can you spend a couple minutes taking our listeners through that and what they will further explore in your writing and your thinking? Again, back to fixed, flexible, and freestyle mindsets.
Sure. So the reason we have a framework called fixed, flexible, freestyle, it's actually a good story. I had a chance to do a job shadow with a senior executive, a CEO of a very big company. And I'm going to tell you, if you've never done a job shadow, I highly recommend you do it. I don't know if I told you this in our last episode, but if I did and you haven't done one yet, shame on you, because it costs nothing. It costs nothing. And just spend a day with somebody who's a role model or somebody you want to be like. You learn
Ashish, that's why I'm out here in Calgary visiting this guy. This is just one big job shadow for me.
Well, I'm telling you, I did it, and I encourage everyone to do it. First of all, if you ask somebody, can I shadow you for a day? Very rarely will anyone say no. People are just complimented and they'll usually say yes. So I encourage everyone to do these. We, of course, do them at scale at Junior Achievement, where we get young people to shadow people in different careers so they can learn what the future for them might look like and they can visualize it. But for me, I did it with Jonas Priesing, who's the CEO of Manpower Group. And Manpower is a giant company. It has over 500,000 employees around the world.
Wow.
And when I was shadowing him, he said, I've got this framework called Fixed, Flexible, Freestyle, which allows me to have some fixed principles, values, guidelines, activities, which are globally true at Manpower. And then I really empower my teams to have flexible and freestyle components as well. And at the time, I didn't get the nuanced difference between particularly flexible and freestyle. But I asked him, I need something like this for Junior Achievement. My organization is also quite large, not as large, of course, as Manpower Group, but offices in over 100 countries and teams everywhere. So he said, yes, you can not only borrow it, but you can amplify it and make it your own.
Nice.
And for the last basically decade in my role here, that's what I've been doing, is I've been trying to use this framework, morph it, change it, improve it, get my colleagues to improve it and use it in different ways. So when I started writing the book, I realized as I started writing about achievement, it's very similar. The nice thing about this framework is it gives you the benefits of agility, but also some fixed things that allow you to have a compass for where you're headed. And I think a lot of people struggle with that in their life choices. They don't know if they should be completely opportunistic and take the thing in front of them, or they should be so principled that they should stick to the long-term plan they originally had, either yesterday or last year or when they graduated from high school or university. So that's what the framework gives you, is it gives you some ability to be both principled, but also agile.
Now, Ashish, and Garth's going to jump into meritocracy and a bunch of other ideas, but I want to stay on this for a moment. When you think about JA worldwide, can you give our listeners a tangible example of what a fixed, flexible, and freestyle principle might be for you in your work, so they can take that away and maybe put it in situ and contextualize for themselves?
Sure. So I'll give you an easy one, and then they'll give you a hard one.
Okay.
The easy one is brand. So we like to have some fixed principles where people who show our brand around the world use the same color logo, use the same taglines, use the same way to showcase the fact that a young person going through a program in let's say, Nigeria, knows they're part of a global organization that also operates in other parts of the world, whether it's Canada or the US or wherever. And so it's an easy one, brand.
Yeah.
And we've got some fixed principles. We've got some flexible for us, which means Africa can be different than Europe, and freestyle, which is people can take the brand guidelines and really amplify them locally, so they can create a building. In the US, we've got multiple buildings which have the JA logo on them, where young kids spend the whole day at JA. Or if it's a digital program, let's say in parts of Africa, it can be used differently on a website, for example. That's an example of something which gives you some flexibility with the brand guidelines. That's an easy example. Now I'll give you a little bit of a harder example. Okay. Job shadow experiences. We were talking about job shadow earlier. That's one of the JA programs. Now, there's some things which are fixed. Here's what a job shadow should look like. Here's how you measure the success of a job shadow experience, the impact of a job shadow experience.
Yeah.
There are many things for contextually how people would do it in a school or in a country or in a region which have to change. In India, in some parts of India, adults are not allowed into schools because of child safeguarding rules. So while, of course, in Canada, you can bring a corporate executive into the school, or you can have a young person leave the school for the day and shadow them in their environment. So the way we run career days, job shadows, has to be obviously based on local laws, local regulations. Right. And we want the innovation on the ground, where even, frankly, things in Delhi are different than things in Mumbai. It doesn't need to be even national. Does that make sense?
Totally
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. So in your book, this is where I'm going to talk about meritocracy.
Yeah. Let's go, Garth. Yeah.
So in your book, you say, you write, I do not think we live in a world where meritocracy thrives for everyone. And meritocracy, as you define it, is a system where everyone gets what they earn. And then you say exceptional achievement requires exceptional effort in all you do. In your book, you really go on to analyze the role that effort, merit, rewards, the joy of the journey of learning. Like you spend a lot of time in that. And I think it's an important lesson for anybody of any age. So I guess my question is, how has the world changed and maybe not changed that it requires these three mindsets in a world of meritocracy?
Yeah, no, great question. Great question. And this is a topic which has guided political conversations in Canada and the US and so many parts of the world. Because there's some things which people, I think, disagree quite passionately on. And there's some things, at least in my view, which most people don't disagree on. One of the things that I think most people don't disagree on is the fact that hard work matters, that effort actually matters. I think most reasonable people would say, at the individual level and maybe even at the societal, regional level, the effort you put into something really does matter in terms of success, outcomes, achievement. Where people disagree is the extent to which there's systematic barriers to allow some people to thrive. What people also probably disagree on is whether we should enable those systematic barriers to be addressed with policies or with practices done at the school level or at the at the regional level. And that's where a lot of the political debate happens. So where I lean into in this book is the stuff which people agree on, which is when you have to evaluate and assess whether an opportunity, whether it's a job opportunity or an educational opportunity, should lead to merit, awards, good grades. Surely we should be valuing the effort involved. And we should be rewarding the effort involved, partly because if you think of the achievement definition of the future, not of the past, it's not about long-term goal attainment anymore, right? If you're going to have 20 jobs and 7 careers, it's not about the long-term goal. It's about the habits and the journey that you're on with the many goals that you're going to have along the way. So if that's more important now, surely we should be rewarding the effort and the habits. That's what we want young people to learn. So that's why I have been sort of starting with this concept of meritocracy does still matter and is still important, because it's just been politicized so much that I think people forget that at times.
I love that answer.
Yeah, so good.
It's so well articulated. And I was at a talk not too long ago, actually at your alma mater, University of Toronto Schools, and they hosted a talk on generative AI in the spring. And Stephen Katz was there, and he said something really interesting, and I'd love your opinion on it. He said, the question was, how do we use generative AI? What's the best way to use it in education? And I'm paraphrasing here, and I hope I get it right. He said, we should be using generative AI to allow us to do hard things. We shouldn't be using generative AI to do the hard things for us. And I think that speaks to, in the age of generative AI, what does hard work and effort actually mean? And for me, in that conversation, what I took out of it was, it means you got to do the hard thinking first, as opposed to downloading that thinking to generative AI. I wonder what your opinion is on that.
Oh, it's a great, first of all, I hadn't heard that idea of using Gen AI specifically for hard things. It's a nice framing. I think the challenge, and I'll start with adults and then we can go to younger people, because I think the answer might be different. I think the challenge is for adults, the desire to use Gen AI to save time supersedes the desire to use Gen AI to become a better person, to make a bigger impact, to improve your life, all the other things that people have.
Yeah.
Because people are so time constrained and they're so focused on needs, not wants, that it's very hard to regulate the use of Gen AI for things that might actually be in the long run good for everyone, but in the short run, hard. So my early instinct to this very attractive framing of use Gen AI to do hard things is, how do you possibly regulate that for adults? Now let's switch to young people, where you can have some degree of regulation and influence, if not control, in a school setting. You can actually have guidelines, you can have policies, you can have rewards and penalties for using, any Gen AI tool, whether it's ChatGPT or the many other tools that young people are using now. And I do think when the goal is not to save time, but the goal is education.
Right.
Then I think now you can start to be much more intentional about directing how AI is used. Of course, people will still break the rules and people will still adapt it for needs. I don't know if you've been reading the articles about how many young people are cheating / breaking the rules. I'm guessing, given your roles, you're intimately familiar with this.
Pretty familiar, yeah.
So I think now the question becomes, how do you enforce rules and how do you get everyone to buy into something which is in their interest, but might still, when push comes to shove and you've got 10 assignments due next week. And I'll speak for UTS. By the way, when I was at UTS many years ago, we had a whole dialogue about excellence at the school, where the teachers defined excellence a certain way and the students wanted to define it a different way. And it all came down to, in my mind, the mindset of scarcity versus abundance. I think we as students were still looking at the world through a scarcity mindset, and the faculty already had made their leap in their mind to be all about abundance. So they were like, guys, here's what we all can be. Here's what excellence could be. And we were like, we have 6 assignments due next week. Please tell me how I'm going to be excellent if 6 assignments are due next week.
Yeah.
And that was such a push and pull dialogue. I remember being part of it. So the world hasn't changed that much.
Yeah. And one of the things that I love about you bringing that conversation about the teacher's perspective and the student's perspective, I want to switch to talking about the structure of your book, because in Modern Achievement, it's not as if you are sitting aloof from education, aloof from the student experience, the young people's experience.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about the structure of the book and why I think every educator needs to read it. But what are the voices that come through in the book?
Well, first of all, it's not just my voice. One of the best things about this book is I've co-authored it with Marshall Goldsmith, who is a
amazing
seminal leadership thinker, really a pioneer in business education, founder of executive coaching, and all of his books are bestsellers, which is one I think I got very lucky in co-authoring it with him, because I was very nervous that if I wrote this on my own, nobody would read it. So with Marshall's name on it, it's really helped.
One of my favorites ever is What Got You Here Won't Get You There. Such a good book. Anyways, yes, carry on.
Yeah. So Marshall's voice in the book, but we also have a lot of young voices in the book from around the world who all have their own success story and achievement story, and they, bring their own perspective. One of my favorite ones, I don't remember if I talked about this last time I was on this show, but was a young person who said one of the things which has helped him achieve success is making friends 5 to 10 years older than you.
Right.
Yeah. And I love that life lesson. It's such a simple one, and a lot of people forget to do it. So it's an easy thing to just remind people. If you're going to have many jobs and many careers, it's all about your network, and be intentional about who your network is. One which I may not have mentioned last time, but I've now, upon reflection, realized is a big deal, is in the fixed section of the book, which is this lesson called Go Meta. And Go Meta, you guys are so familiar with this given what you do, but I think a lot of your listeners may not be. The idea of meta learning and taking a moment to reflect on what you've learned.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we put that in the fixed section of the book is it's actually based on science and based on human behavior that's not changing.
Yes.
So whether AI changes our lives fundamentally or not, regardless of what you believe, I think this idea of, after you've learned something, not just moving on to the next thing, but taking a moment, taking a beat, and reflecting on what you've learned, it makes all the difference in retention and, frankly, utility of your learning journey. So we put that with some good examples of how to do that in the fixed section of the book.
Yeah. So both of those, the wise mentor and the metacognition, and coupled with positive self-talk, I think they're like foundational for finding your path forward. I mean, what I ask often on this podcast is, I come back to, like, if you were sitting with a senior or middle leader in schools, And they were just simply saying, what's your best advice for what I need to pass on to the kids in my care that are going to allow them to achieve in this modern world? And just give me your best advice. And we've heard a lot of it already here, but what direction would you inspire them to lead their schools in?
Okay, I'm going to tell you something which might even be a little bit controversial, just because the positive self-talk. I think most people know about positive self-talk and they know about metacognition, so that's not going to surprise them. Let me tell you something that's counterintuitive.
Yeah, let's have it.
I believe that we spend too much time focusing on purpose.
Okay, let's do it.
We really, I think, encourage our kids, encourage our students, encourage ourselves to come up with a direction, come up with life purpose. Because we're looking for that fixed thing to frame decisions. That's why we do it. But in reality, it takes time. It takes time, and it happens for different people at different ages.
Yes.
If you're Greta Thunberg, you may have discovered your purpose at 14.
Right.
But not every young person is Greta Thunberg. So you have to let people get to their purpose at whatever pace they want. And I mean this for adults as much as kids.
Yep, that's
this
so
amazing graphic in the book, which shows how you move from ready-made purpose to self-made purpose in your life journey. And the midpoint where you move from ready-made to self-made purpose is called midlife. That's the definition, or that's the graphic, the way they show it. And Aisha Bursell, the illustrator of the book, came up with this beautiful graphic. I love it. I use it in a lot of my talks because I really do feel that we as parents and we as teachers are always nudging our kids to make choices and make decisions and discover who they are and who they're going to be.
Amazing.
One last thing I want to end on, because we have had other authors on the podcast. The other thing I want to point our listeners to is your work on and your emphasis on mentors, and that might be that reverse mentoring that you've already talked about, but also having, and one of our authors calls it a personal board of directors, and just having that language. So I think that helps too in having young people take their time to find their purpose. They get exposed to different people and their journeys. And I think that's one of the great things about this book, Ashish, is that your journey is interwoven throughout this book as well. And I said this when we interviewed the first time, I've always appreciated your personal journey and how it's informed this book too. So thank you. We've got two more questions for you.
We do. All right. First question. We wrap up almost all of our podcasts with, we got to come back to Ted Lasso at some point. Yeah. And we're, polling the authors that we're spending time with. Simply, do you think Ted's a good leader? Why or why not? Compel us to better understand his leadership, please.
Well, season 1 Ted was an exceptional leader. I mean, everything about season 1 Ted made me want to be like him.
Yeah.
Season 2 Ted and season 3 Ted pushed the boundaries, I think, in my own understanding of myself. Like, am I vulnerable enough? Am I somebody who sort of leans into vulnerability as a strength or as a part of my personality?
Yes.
I think there's some differences, I think, on that dimension.
That's so interesting.
And so my short answer is, of course, yes. My more complex answer is maybe I'm not as good a leader as he is. I don't know. Let's wait and see.
I do like how you've broken him into leadership eras 1, 2, and 3. And I think it's a super interesting way to differentiate it. I love leaning in on the vulnerability of season 2. And I think it's challenging for a lot of viewers to reconcile what kind of leader he is in that space and how it relates to ourselves. What you just said has enlightened me in Ted and his leadership. That's a very unique stance. Well done. I appreciate that.
Ashish, I listened to our podcast from season 1. Do you remember what you said about him in season 1?
I don't. Oh no, what did I say?
No, it was great because it just goes back to another great part of your book, which is you said, yes, he is, because he shows how not knowing details isn't the critical thing. He sees beyond the dogma to the possible. And you call this naive audacity in your book.
Right. Oh, I had a better answer the first time. Look at that.
Okay. Last question. We think season 4 is coming out. Is season 4 a good idea, Ashish?
Oh, man. I have to tell you, when I first heard, I was like, oh, no, really?
Yeah,
I was,
yeah. I was
I,
with you.
which is weird, right? I mean, I love the show, and I
Yeah.
should have said yes, but it ended so well with everything tied
Yeah.
up. It gave me the satisfaction,
Yeah.
and now I'm just like slightly nervous on their behalf that they can pull it off. Of
Yeah.
course, I want it to succeed. I understand that they're going to take Ted to the U.S. That's what I've heard. So I don't know if that's true or rumor,
Who
but if
knows?
they take him out of England and bring him to the U.S., I'm even more nervous, even
Yeah.
more nervous. So
Yeah.
let's see.
We're nervous too, but hopeful. We'll
Yeah.
say, you know,
yeah.
Believe.
Okay.
We can end with believe.
we have to
Gotta
believe.
believe.
We gotta
Gotta
believe.
love it,
Nice,
love it.
nice pullback.
Asheesh, you do such great work. Where can our listeners find out more about you and the work that you do?
So our website is jaworldwide.org. And of course, on social media, LinkedIn, those other things. I actually do respond to people on LinkedIn. I try my best to build a way to actually build a community of people who want to support JA. So please reach out to me personally on LinkedIn or jaworldwide.org.
Amazing. Thank you so much for making time today.
It's so good.
A lot on the go, but sharing your book, the transformative ideas in here, modern achievement. There's an implication that achievement has changed, and your book does a great job, not only articulating the what, the where, but the how too, which I really appreciated. So it's been a pleasure, as always, having you on the show, Asheesh. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And
My pleasure.
Asheesh, can you do us the honor of taking us home?
All right. So until next time, keep leading the Lasso way.
Asheesh, that's the
Nailed
best.
it.
Well done.
Nailed it.
Thank you so much for today.
Grab your coffee, grab your seat. It's time to learn, it's time to meet. Garth and Jason setting the tone. Leadership lessons to take back home. Lassoing leadership sharp and true. Beard's Book Club got wisdom for you. Turn the pages, let the stories flow. Unpacking lessons as we grow. Keep leading the lasso way. Together we'll grow stronger every day. So plug in your headphones and let's start the show. With lessons from Ted, we'll learn and grow. Lassoing leadership sharp and true. Beard's Book Club got wisdom for you. Turn the pages, let the stories flow. Unpacking lessons as we grow. Keep leading the lasso way. Together we'll grow stronger every day. So plug in your headphones and let's start the show with lessons